So today we're going to be talking about the scientific method. The scientific method is just a set of steps in order for you to answer a question by doing an experiment. So the first step is to pose the question. And today our question is, how many drops of water will my penny hold? Well, before I can decide how many drops of water, I need to do a little bit of research. And I found when I did my research that a lot of it depended on the surface tension of the penny. Okay, so pennies are, water has molecules, and the water molecules below the surface are pulled together in all directions equally. But those that are on top of the water are pulled together in a different way, and it forms kind of a skin, and we call that surface tension. And our surface tension helps determine how much water can be held together before it falls off of our penny. So before we start our experiment, I want you to make your hypothesis. So what's a hypothesis? Your hypothesis is just your best guess. Now, I've told you a little bit about the research that I learned, so using that information, I want you to make your hypothesis. Your hypothesis should begin with an if-then statement. So I've already started it off for you. So I put in your box, if I put blank drops of water on the penny, then it will not fall off the surface of the penny. So estimate how many drops of water you can put on the penny before it starts falling off onto the plate. Now remember, your hypothesis is just your best guess. So if it's incorrect, that's okay. We're learning from our experiment either way. Please don't change your hypothesis in order for it to match the correct amount that was dropped onto the water. Okay? It doesn't matter what your hypothesis is, whether it's right or wrong, you're going to learn something. Okay, so step number 3 says to make your experiment. So in order to do that, you have to decide what materials you're going to use. And I've included the materials I am using in our paper. So I put down you need a pipette, you need water in a cup, and you need some pennies and a plate. Those are the only things we're going to be using for our experiment today. And then I went through and I wrote down the steps of our experiment. It's extremely important that you keep the steps written down so you don't skip any, because each time you do the experiment, you need to do the exact same thing in exactly the same order in the same way. The only thing that we're going to be changing is how many drops of water we're going to be putting on our pennies. Okay, so it says step 1 to gather all the materials. Then fill a cup with water, draw up the water into the pipette, use the pipette to drop water on the penny, 1 drop at a time, counting each drop as you go. And then when the water spills over, you stop counting and record your results. And we're going to do this a total of 4 times. Okay, because in a experiment, the more times you do it, the more reliable your results are going to be. And then we're going to record our results on our table on our paper. So we're going to start with test 1. Let's see how many drops we can put on the first penny. I've already drawn up the water. So let's do how many drops. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, up 23, because on the 24th it spilled over. So I'm going to write down 23 next to test 1. That's how many drops we did for test 1. So let's go to test 2 and see if it's the same. Remember, the more times you do it, the more reliable it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oops, I gotta get more water. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 22. Okay, so that was one less than the last time. So we had 23 and then 22. Let's go to our third experiment. 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh, that one's fallen off. We may have to move this penny. Let's try it in a new location. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 22. Okay, so we had 23, and then 2 was 22, test 3 was 22. So let's try our last test. 1, let me scoot it over, I dropped it off. Okay, I'll try again. Let me make sure that's dry. Let me flip it over, that might make it a little better. If Miss McCoy can pick up the penny. There we go. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Uh-oh, ours is spilling off of this one. So this is going to be an invalid attempt. So we wouldn't put anything down for this one because this penny is not working like the other pennies were. Okay, so now we have to go to our data. We filled in our data, so we have nothing for test number 4. We're not going to include it, but for test number 1, we had 23. Test number 2, we had 22, and test number 3, we had 22. So if you look at the bottom row of our table, it says average out how many drops. So you would add all those together. So 22 and 22 are 44, and 23 would be 67. So you divide those three numbers by the number 3, and you're going to come up with 22 and a half. So that's almost 23 drops, okay? And so you now know about how many drops it takes to cover the penny before it spills over onto our plate. So you go down to your conclusion. You've recorded your results, you've analyzed your results. Now you're going to draw your conclusion. Your conclusion is based on the information in your data table and what your hypothesis was. So whatever you decided the amount was, you're supposed to state in your conclusion, were you correct or incorrect in your hypothesis? So if you were correct, your conclusion might write something like, my hypothesis was correct. I predicted, and tell me how many drops would drop on the penny, and that's how many I saw in the data from our experiment. Or maybe you're going to say, my hypothesis was incorrect. And in that case, you would say, my hypothesis was incorrect. I predicted, maybe you said 40 drops would stay on the penny before it fell off. before it fell off onto the plate, and that was incorrect. The correct amount was 22 and a half. Okay, I hope this helps with guiding you through the steps of the scientific method. If you have any questions, feel free to call me.